Welcome to 100 Yards of Football Sports Talk Radio. And I'm being welcomed today by one of my players, Glenn Sims. He's over there at the school now. That's the noise that you hear in the background. That's that dorm life.
Yes, sir.
Glenn Sims, what's going on, man?
I'm doing good, Coach. You forgot an important detail. I'm your favorite player, but it's cool. It's cool. I can understand. You might have forgot. It's cool. I get it.
Oh man, we'll talk about that later. Oh man, this is. I'm glad to have you on, man. We've had Julian was on one time before. Had Coach Kemp on last week. That was a lot of fun. So look forward to having you on, man. Having a good time with you, man. We've been having this discussion for a long time. Seemed like forever.
Yeah, yes, sir.
This young man, he's got a high basketball IQ. Does he's a pleasure to coach. I enjoy him a lot. He challenges my thinking and everything, my preparation and everything. So, but we like to have a lot of fun. So one of the conversations that I don't know why I engage in the conversation at all. But he's a Golden State Warriors fan. I'm not mad at that at all. He's a Steph Curry fan. Not mad at that at all. And he's a Steve Kerr fan. Not mad at that at all. The argument we have is that he says that Steve Kerr is the greatest coach of all time. So we're going to get into this discussion, and I'm going to allow him to say a whole bunch of stuff that I've already heard, and let him share with the audience why he thinks Steve Kerr is the greatest coach of all time. Glenn, is your flow.
Thank you, Coach. Well, for starters, this argument all started between Steve Kerr and Mark Jackson. But Mark Jackson, he's a good dude. Nothing but respect for him. Astounding black man, father, all that in the community. He's cool, but this is coaching. This is a business coaching. Hey, he's not anywhere in Steve Kerr's class, league, anything. It's like high school. He's like a high school coach. So, for starters, I want to say Steve Kerr is either the greatest or top 3 greatest basketball coaches ever. Based off statistics, winning percentage, how he was as a player, just all that ties into it. I mean, come on, Coach. He won before. He coached under Greg Popovich.
He did.
And as soon as he got to the Warriors, the whole organization changed. Now, you like to say Mark Jackson built it. And I mean, that's cool, Coach. That's cool, I guess. I mean, I guess you could say he built it. He didn't draft them or anything. He didn't do anything different. He just had the players as well as Steve Kerr. But when Steve Kerr came in, he made subtle changes. And even though they were subtle, they were like sharp changes, like a cut, Coach. It's like Mark Jackson, he cut. Steve Kerr, he put an emphasis on planting his foot and cutting, Coach. He let go of David Lee, started Draymond, moved Curry off the ball. I mean, come on, Coach. I believe personally KD wouldn't have wanted to play under a Mark Jackson team. That's just me though.
That may or may not be true, but let's go back to your statement about Mark Jackson and Steve Kerr. All right. Now Mark Jackson took nothing. He took nothing now.
How was it nothing, Coach?
He took nothing. He took some. They weren't winning when Mark Jackson took it over. They were the bottom of the basement when Mark Jackson took that thing over.
They already had a rookie of the year.
Now, when you start talking about, the greatest of all time, all right, you got to be able to substantiate that with a lot of different factors. Okay, I like the fact that you say, he came in and he made some subtle changes. I'll give you that. That's a coaching move. So I'll give you that. However, Mark Jackson proved that I can take nothing and progressively build it to something. We don't know what would have happened had Mark Jackson stayed. What we do know is every year that he was there, they made substantial strides to be better. We know that. We don't know if that same thing would have happened if Steve Kerr took the team when Mark Jackson took the team. We don't know that. All we know is that when the team had already established itself as a winning program, a winning organization, a playoff team, then Steve Kerr came and took something that was already on the trajectory of greatness. They were already on that trajectory. So to call him the greatest of all time when he don't even have a resume long enough to put him in the top 3, let alone the GOAT. You talking about the GOAT? He doesn't resume long enough to be in the top 3. He don't even have 400 wins, man.
Coach, you and I both know, one, he's on that way, and two, Coach, we gotta stop saying Mark Jackson had nothing. He had Rookie of the Year Curry. He had a young prospect in Draymond.
Okay.
Young Klay Thompson. And they were just coming off that We Believe era. So it wasn't like they were a bad team. They just needed direction. Now, I give you Mark Jackson gave them direction. That's understandable. But I don't feel like it should be a knock on Steve Kerr that he didn't start it just from the bottom. Everybody has a different path. Like, some of the greats played with other great players. Some did it by themselves. Like, he took what he had and he elevated it. Under Mark Jackson, they didn't have a single all-star. Curry was an MVP. Mark Jackson was telling people, I'll give him that. He was telling people to splash bros or something serious. But I don't even think he saw Curry as what he is now. He was never saying he was going to be a 2-time MVP, the only unanimous in finals history. Only unanimous in league history. Like, come on, Coach. Come on. As soon as Steve Kerr gets there, that happens. The very next year? Come on, Coach. You like to say that was bound to happen.
That was going to happen.
How, Coach? Come on, Coach.
That was going to happen. If Mark Jackson he's already telling you, man, he's telling you about the splash bros, what they're going to be. He's already telling you that. So that was going to happen. And plus, you can see the progression of it already happening. Now, the argument that I'll give you is that Kerr made a subtle change. He put Draymond Green in the starting lineup. All right, that's a subtle change. But we don't know. One, whether or not Mark Jackson would have done that. We don't know because he was let go. We don't know, right? 2, we don't know if just because Draymond started, we don't know if that was a significant change. It was a significant change for Draymond Green, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean that what Mark Jackson would have done the next year wouldn't have been just as successful. We don't know. What we do know is Mark Jackson did not get let go because of his coaching.
No, that I agree. I agree with you on that. I definitely agree. But at the same time, I feel like we can't base it off what ifs, Coach, because then it's just like a whole bunch of what ifs thrown in there. And if we look at the statistical evidence, Mark Jackson wasn't going to change. The Draymond Green thing, it was a subtle change, but it was like a domino effect. It led to Curry being able to play off the ball. I feel like Mark Jackson just didn't see that. Like, under Mark Jackson, it was more screen and roll. Curry was heavy on ball. It was more, he had more assists at that time. Like, so his production assist-wise was up, but his turnovers are up as well because there was no one else on the court who could, like, really handle the ball. They didn't have, like a Iguodala. Like, they weren't playing through Draymond.
I know why you want to be off the ball so much. Go ahead. I'm listening.
No, I enjoy being on the ball, Coach. Don't get it twisted. Give me the ball. In fact, I need the ball. The ball calls my name. It's just everybody likes to play with someone else who can play make as well. Because when you play with someone else who can play make, it opens up the floor. It's like putting LeBron and Rondo on the court. Like, LeBron gonna have the ball, but at the same time, he knows if he gives it to Rondo, he can play make for him as well, and not just for him, opening up things for his teammates as well. So that's another big move under Steve Kerr. Andre Iguodala, like, people were never thinking Andre Iguodala was going to be in that kind of role that he was in. Because on the 76ers, he was a superstar, scoring. Right. But what did Steve Kerr do, Coach? He's always doing something subtle that people don't realize. Took him out the starting lineup, said, nah, come off the bench. And Iguodala said, okay, because he created that culture. See, coach, come on, like I don't know what else. Like as soon as Steve Kerr got there, Draymond Green immediately propelled to an all-star. Under Mark Jackson, he was a hidden gem. He was on the bench behind David Lee. Where is David Lee right now, coach? We don't know.
Come on now. Now let's not say David Lee was a 2010 guy now. Let's not act like David
So
Lee
was Al Horford.
Huh?
So was Al Horford.
Oh God, man, come on.
So was Al Horford.
Don't do that.
20 and 10, coach. Under the Hawks, Al Horford was 20 and 10. That's what I'm saying.
Al Horford stealing money. You know that. Stop playing.
On, coach. Come on, coach. That's what I'm saying. David Lee.
Recover from all the money they paid Al Horford.
You can switch out David Lee for Al Horford and not realize.
No, man. Come on, man.
They were about the same. They both can hit a mid-range, possibly a three. They can pass a little bit. He can dribble enough. I mean, he gonna get about 8-9 rebounds.
No, he gonna get you 10. He gonna get you 10-11.
He's not Draymond. I don't think Mark Jackson realized that.
But maybe Draymond in Mark Jackson's eyes could do the same thing that he did coming off the bench. That energy and all that stuff. Maybe, but because David Lee got hurt now. Let's be.
Yeah, he did.
Got hurt. He did. Maybe he thought that Draymond was better coming off the bench with that energy. All right. Now, if David Lee and Draymond switch roles, is David Lee going to be as effective coming off the bench like Draymond? I mean, those are the things that you got to look at when you start making subtle changes. You start talking about coaching. All right. But my argument is forget all that. I didn't think Steve Kerr could coach.
Mm-hmm.
But you're saying he's the GOAT.
He is top 3 at least, definitely.
There's at least 9, 10 other coaches that got 3-4 times more wins than him.
It doesn't matter about any of that, coach. They have more years. I'm saying in the short period of time that Steve Kerr has been coaching, he has to be the GOAT, especially around like in this little era that he's been coaching. He's the GOAT. He's the greatest coaching in basketball right now.
He's top 3. He's better than Greg Popovich. Popovich coaching right now. Popovich got 5 rings.
Popovich is on the way out, coach. If we're being honest, I mean, I give Popovich his credit.
He's still there though.
Steve Kerr, yeah, he is, and Steve Kerr learned under him. But sometimes the student just has to pass the master. Like a prime example of that, coach, is KD. Literally, I remember it to this day. I thought KD was going to the Spurs.
Right.
Yeah, Greg Popovich, Kawhi. That's when Tony Parker was still there. I'm not sure if Tim Duncan was there or not, but he might have been. Yeah, they had they had really everything lined up right there. I never thought he was going to go to the Warriors, but he chose the Warriors. Why? Because the system Steve Kerr had, and that's just a testament right there, coach. He chose Steve Kerr's team over Greg Popovich's team.
You think he chose Steve Kerr, or he chose Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green and them?
I mean, I believe he chose them as well, but at the same time, the Spurs are also filled with players who at that moment had more accolades and still kind of do have more accolades than all the people on the Warriors. So I feel like it comes down to the coaching system and the coach, and that's why I believe he chose Steve Kerr.
So with his what? How many years he been in Golden State? 6 years?
I believe so.
6 or 7 years? Okay. Now, you always like to talk about small ball, right? That he introduced small ball to.
He reintroduced small ball.
Okay, yeah.
Effectively. A lot of people have done it before, but it wasn't as effective because I don't believe they had a Draymond. Like they didn't have someone with a Draymond, and they didn't have that kind of offense. Like now, I give Steve Kerr that he did have a lot of great players, but just because you have great players doesn't mean it's easier to coach. If anything, it's kind of harder to coach.
Why is it?
A lot of people can teach basketball to a player who's of lesser ability. That's not really I mean, that speaks to the testament of you. Like Mark Jackson, maybe he's a teacher of basketball, and I give him that. That's commendable. Like, but at the same time, it's hard to get a Steph Curry, a Klay Thompson, a Andre Iguodala, a Kevin Durant, a Draymond Green. All these guys are getting millions. It's hard to get them to say, okay, this is what we're going to do. Like Steph Curry, he immediately, when KD came in, he took kind of a backseat kind of role to KD and let him stand in the forefront and dominate. That's hard to do, but that has to be created through a culture. That's what I'm saying, Coach.
So you're saying Steve Kerr created that culture?
Yes, sir. Definitely, most definitely.
You don't think that that's who Steph Curry is? You don't
I believe
think
that's who he is. Okay, Coach, but I'm who I am, but I can only be who I am if you allow it. Like, if you were to say, this is what we're going to do, I'm not going to allow you to do this, then I can't be that person. But Steve Kerr came in, allowed Steph Curry to be himself because he realized Steph Curry doesn't want to be pounding the ball 1,000 times, doing all that extra stuff. He doesn't. Under Mark Jackson, Steph Curry was guarding more point guards on ball, and he was heavy production dribbling the ball. So his assists was up, but like I said, his turnovers were down. But as soon as Steve Kerr got there, he realized, hey, I know how to play just like Steph. I'm a shooter as well. I know exactly what he's looking for. He's looking to mix it up, off the ball, on the ball, off the ball, on the ball. Come on, Coach.
Okay.
Give it to Draymond.
Okay, so Steve Kerr is the GOAT. All right. So now, how many different styles for you to be the GOAT? This is my opinion. All right.
Mm-hmm.
For you to be the GOAT, you have to be able to meet a lot of different criteria.
Mm-hmm.
You start talking about coaching. All right. You got to have rings. Steve Kerr got rings. You got to have a high win percentage. Steve Kerr got a high win percentage. You got to have just total number of wins. You know, he's got, in his short period of time, he's got a decent number of wins, right? But what we haven't seen is how he's going to handle adversity. What we do know is when adversity has struck, he hasn't come through. Okay, I don't support it.
Come on, Coach. We had that conversation, Coach. We had that conversation, Coach. If anything, that's more so on the players. But even if that is a knock on him, we can take that because he lost to one of the greatest players in the game. But
listen, hold on now. But Glenn, the conversation is that he's the GOAT, right? Okay. Yeah. So if he's the GOAT, okay, they lost Draymond Green in the finals. They didn't lose Steph. They didn't lose their number one option. They didn't lose Klay, the number two option. They lose Draymond, third, fourth option. So if you're the GOAT, you got to be able to overcome losing your third, fourth option with a 3-1 lead.
I agree, Coach. I said even if that's a chink in his armor, that's a chink that I believe I would be willing to take because LeBron had to do a Hercules kind of effort to even, you know what I mean? And people forget that the Warriors did overcome adversity against the greatest scorer of all time. Literally the series before, came back from 3-1. So people forget that. They lost. They did. The Cavs deserved it. They folded a little under pressure, Draymond, he got in that thing, and then Steph Curry, I feel like he could have stepped up as a better leader. But, he's still the greatest point guard of all time, in my opinion. But,
That's a show, man. That's a whole other show, man.
He's still the greatest point guard of all time, But it's just, I don't believe that's on Steve Kerr. I don't believe that's on Steve. I believe that could be a chink in his armor, but I don't believe that's really on him because at the end of the day, the players have to play. He put them in a position to win. They were up 3-1. And then I believe it was on Steph Curry and the other surrounding cast to make a better effort to stand up and, But LeBron, he had 40. He had about a 40-point triple-double every game.
Right.
So, hey.
Okay. So let's put another chink in his arm. Right? Because he the GOAT. Top three, he the GOAT. He already blew a 3-1 lead. All right. Then you got You got the best record in the history of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you got the best record in the history of the game and you the GOAT, you got to win a championship.
I agree, but that was the same year they blew the 3-1 lead.
I know it was the same year. That's my whole point.
I understand. I mean, that makes sense. But at the same time, I believe that's also a plus while it's a chink in his armor, because it shows that what he's doing is working. And this was before KD. This is what people forget. They're really almost better without KD. This was before KD. They were destroying teams too. They were dismantling teams, Coach. They were dismantling teams.
Not better without KD. Come on now.
They were almost better without KD, Coach.
So what you're saying is when they lost Draymond Green, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're better without KD. What you're saying is if they had KD, they still would have lost that series.
No, I'm not saying that. I mean, I'm not taking away from KD being a great player. I'm talking about overall in the grand scheme of things. If you look at the numbers, statistics, and the wins, they were almost better without KD. Of course, the team is going to be more talented. KD is the greatest scorer to ever pick up a basketball and breathe at the same time. So, I mean, of course, that's just like,
you make a lot of tonight.
Coach, you can't tell me another person 7 foot who's 50, 40, 90, who's a 3-level scorer. Come on, Coach. That's just too many things. It's too many things. He's efficient. He's so efficient, Coach. Come on, Coach.
Oh, I love KD.
Come on, Coach.
I love KD. You know that. I love KD.
Greatest scorer to ever touch a basketball.
I mean,
he'll dominate in any era. Dominate.
I can't say that. I can't say that, Glenn, because listen, one of the reasons that Steph is not the first person to do what he's doing.
Mm-hmm. He's just the best at it.
No, the rules allow.
Oh, Lord.
I'm just honest with you. The rules allow him to be that great. The physicality of the game before wasn't going to allow him. Now you can't touch nobody. They want you to score 120 points a night because fans want to see scoring. They want to see points. That's why they loosen up the rules. They do it in every sport. They do it in football. They do it in every sport because that's what fans want to see. It's not a knock, but what this generation seems to think is that style of play has something to do with talent. There's a guy named Mahmoud Chris Jackson used to do everything Steph does. Everything. And
we can look it up now, Coach. He couldn't have been as efficient as Steph. Steph is the epitome of efficiency, Coach. Listen, 50, 40, 90 almost every year.
About those numbers, efficiency, and all that.
That's what it's about.
I know about what I see. All right. Now, if we go back and do the numbers, I don't know. I do know this. The game was much more physical back then. All right.
See, I feel like
back then, his efficiency would have dropped.
I don't believe that, Coach.
Why don't
you learn how to play? Anybody can learn how to play more physical.
That's
because
not
true. once you get hit, it's you. Coach, that is true.
It's just the opposite. It's just the opposite. No. Anybody can play with more freedom.
I don't believe so.
Yeah, listen.
I don't think so, Coach.
If I allow you to move around the court however you want to, that's easier than if you getting hit every single time you try to come across this lane. That's much easier. You got freedom of movement.
I think you're getting confused with the skill level of these players versus the other players. A lot of people can play through physicality. That's cool because it's human nature. You either gonna respond two ways, like you always does in practice. If someone hits me, I can either respond physically or emotionally. And if I respond emotionally, then maybe it's not the sport for me. So if somebody hits me and I need to get more physical, then I'm going to get more physical, especially if they brought the exact same physicality in today's game with all the technology, weight training, all that. Come on, Coach. He would still dominate. He would just be a little more physical. That's it.
He would have to be more physical.
That's fine.
It wouldn't be he would be. He would have to survive. He
That's
framed it. Like, now, if you said LeBron, that's another conversation. If you said Kawhi, that's another conversation. They're built that way. Steph Curry's not built that way. He's not built to be more physical.
It doesn't.
The freedom of the rules is perfect for his game.
Can you be physical when the ball is in the air, Coach?
Say it again.
Can you be physical when the ball is in the air?
Can you be physical when the ball's in the air?
Yes.
It depends on, if you off the ball, yeah. If you're boxing out and stuff like that, yeah.
Okay. That's all you can do though, Coach. So Steph Curry, you have to guard him from baseline to baseline. He can shoot. That can open up regardless if anybody's playing physical or not. If I can shoot, if I even look at the rim, they have to react, Coach. He would just adapt to that. He's too great of a player, the greatest point guard ever. He's just too great of a player, Coach. He's too efficient. If he gets an open look, it's going in. Like,
I agree.
You act like I believe like as the years have gone by, the league has gotten weaker. But when Curry first came in, it was still a physical league. Mind you, this was around the We Believe era and all that. Like, these people were malice in the palace, and come on, Coach. He was still rookie of the year, averaging around 20. He can still play, Coach. He just changed for the rules. He can adapt. And if it were to ever get more physical, he would just get physical too. That's people's whole MO. They think they can just rough him up, and he can shoot, Coach. If he looks at the rim, you have to react.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Now, what I think you confusing though, and we kind of drifted off of Steve Kerr, but because I want to get back to him. But what I think a lot of people today are confusing, they confuse style of play with skill. Mm-hmm. Like we was talking earlier. I don't know if you was there. We was talking earlier today about could I shoot? And I was like, I ain't shoot three. There wasn't no 3-pointers it wasn't no need to shoot threes, right? Mm-hmm. It wasn't no 3-point line. So a coach would take you out if you're shooting from 30 feet and you getting 2 points. It doesn't mean there wasn't guys that couldn't shoot like that, right? Mm-hmm. But the style of play dictated that you didn't take certain shots. Okay? Now, because there's a reward for that and it stretches the court, now you take that shot. But it doesn't mean that there wasn't guys that couldn't make those same shots. It was just a different style of play. And then also you got to understand this. You have a different culture of coaches now, right? So one of the reasons that I got frustrated and didn't play when I moved down south was because I moved to North Carolina, and everybody's at Dean Smith, 5 in, 5 out, 5 passes and all that. You know what I mean? Come on, man. Like, that's style of play. Right? That's style of play. So it was a difference back then. If you threw a behind the back pass, you could hear the announcers back then, Al McGuire and guys like that, they said playground basketball. Whereas I tell you guys right now, that's behind the back pass. That's a fundamental pass because it blocks you between the defender. I can't make this pass in front of me with an elite defender right in front of me. I can't make this pass. I take it behind my back because my body shields him from deflecting that pass. But 20, 35 years ago, man, you showboating. See? So that's style of play and culture, not necessarily talent and skill. So when guys like DePaul broke on the scene with Mark Aguirre and Rod Strickland, this is way before your day. Talk to your dad about these folks. All right. They brought a style of play that we grew up playing. It just wasn't on mainstream media. It wasn't in the mainstream college basketball on that level. But in the parks and in the neighborhood, that's the way we played. But that style of play wasn't acceptable on the quote unquote, mainstream level of play. All right. So that's what I think, when we start talking about Curry and all that type, man, plenty of guys. Plenty of guys.
Coach. It's a thin line. That's what I've been trying to tell you. We already talked about this. Now I feel like the game and the process is a little more refined. Like, it's like how we talked about, like, back in the day, people used to play baseball, football, basketball. Now people could train all year for basketball. So I believe like people are more skilled nowadays. Not as far as fundamentals. Now I believe fundamentals is an essential part of being skilled, and that's what I believe my generation of basketball lacks, the fundamentals of things. I don't see too many big men being able to, turn over both shoulders, do hook shots. I don't see too many guards being able to, make fundamental passes. But everybody can make a behind the back pass or do a Euro step. But I still believe the game is a little like higher skill level. Since they loosened the defense, I believe people's skill level has increased because they realize that, hey, the defense is a little less, handsy, a little less physical. So now I can dip into my full skill capability. And that's what I believe, like the game is more skill. Now, I agree with the style of play, but I believe it's like a thin line between like style of play and skill. Like it might have been a few people that could shoot like Steph Curry. I know Muhammad Abdul Rauf, he can shoot. I know he was a great shooter. But I just believe Curry's just a little more skilled, coach, as far as shooting off the dribble, catch and shoot, all that. Like 400 threes in a season is unheard of, coach.
He's one of the best ever. He's one of the best ever. But they wasn't taking, again, a style of play. They wasn't taking threes like that back in the day. All right. And I agree. Guys are playing basketball year round. See, when I came up, if you didn't play multiple sports, they didn't consider you an athlete.
Yeah.
You had to play football, basketball, baseball for them to consider you an athlete. Now everything is more everybody focuses on one sport. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if you do one sport year round, you are going to be more skilled. So your skills should be better. But when I'm talking about the elite, with the elite, the elite are going to be the elite regardless. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to be a whole lot of difference between the elite, right? Steph Curry is an elite shooter. I don't care what decade it is. He's an elite shooter, all right? But they had elite shooters back in the day just like him. They just didn't take 15 threes a game. They would take 7. You know, they take 7. Teams wasn't shooting 43s a game like Houston and all that type of stuff. They weren't doing that. That style of play.
But that's what I'm saying, coach. I believe Steph Curry, they weren't allowing him to do that easy. It took a moment for him to like, people like, what is he doing? Like, I feel like he kind of introduced that, coach. Like, when people come in and they shoot threes, what do they say? Curry. When people do a fadeaway, what do they say? Kobe. Like, it took time for him to introduce that, coach. He had to fight to get to where it is now. He had to crawl so people like Damian Lillard and the Jamal Murray's and even the Hardens could come down and do all that stuff. They got that from Curry. But that's what I'm saying, because I believe it's like a thin line between like the style of play. And I believe even if the people back then could shoot 15 threes, they might not be as efficient because the game is just, I don't know. I just believe people are a little more skilled. Like even in high school basketball, like I don't believe like the fundamentals are there. Like if you go watch a high school game, you might not see a lot of cuts, posting up, anything like that. But the overall athleticism and skill just through the roof. And I believe the elite of today's game is more elite than years prior.
Yeah, absolutely not. Absolutely
Skill-wise.
Simply because of what you just said, they don't have the fundamentals. Like you can just look on our own team. You know, we got guys that can shoot the daylights out that thing. But fundamentally, they're not there. Right? And you can't. Gary Payton said this. Gary Payton said this. He said that I don't want to quote him, but I'm paraphrasing that what he said was players back in the day, there were better players. Now, what I think he was saying, what he didn't say was today's generation might have more skill, but that doesn't make you a better player because you have more skill, right? The efficiency, which is one of the things that you're talking about, knowing how to get your shots off, knowing how to play within the system, knowing how to coordinate your skill set with some other guys and their skill sets, understanding time, and all those things make you a player, right? You're not a better player simply because you have a better skill set. Those two aren't synonymous, right? If you don't know how to use your skill set to get it off and to incorporate that within the system of guys, that doesn't make you necessarily a better player. It just means you're skilled. They're two different things. But I want to finish with this because with Steve, we got to get out of here. But with Steve Kerr, I got to go back to this, and this is my main point with Steve Kerr. It goes along with the point of Mark Jackson and what he did in terms of building that thing, and my belief in that what was going to happen was going to happen. Steve, the evidence of that is, yes, Steve Kerr, his first year, he won. All right. You know, yeah. We'll give him credit for that. But what happened the very following next year? He missed the first 42, 43, 45 games or something like that. And they had the best record in the history of the franchise. And he wasn't on the bench. So that's evidence of that thing was already going to do what it was going to do.
You know that, no, Coach.
Him not being there
didn't
affect. Him not being there did not affect what was going to happen.
It shouldn't. And
then, we can't say Luke Walton was a great coach because we see what he did.
That's my point. That's what proves that it was a culture that Steve Kerr built.
No,
it has to be.
It's the foundation that was built before he got there. Already happened. It was already. We go into that.
Coach, you know that's not true. You know that's not true, Coach. You know that's not true. Coach, if I was coaching you and you were a good player and I was telling people, hey, you guys need to Coach Spencer, he can play. And then I get like fired for something, not basketball related. And a new coach comes in and you literally go from not an all-star, not even a rejected all-star, people just saying you're an up-and-coming rising player, to an MVP, all-star, and winning the championship. Come on, Coach. And he created that culture because Luke Walton already proved he's a terrible coach. He doesn't need a coaching job anywhere else. He already proved that. He didn't do anything. He sat on the bench and had a piece of paper, and they just went out there. Steve Kerr probably talked to them via Zoom or FaceTime for the game. He held it down, Coach. I give Luke Walton his respect. Steve Kerr came back, and they didn't miss a beat as soon as he came back. Why, Coach? Because he learned under Greg Popovich, one of the greatest coaches. Top 3 as well. But, Steve Kerr is just the GOAT of this era. He just is. There isn't a better coach out right now than Steve Kerr. It's not.
Well, listen, man, we'll see how he comes back after this down year they had. They had some injuries and things of that nature. So we'll see how he comes back when he's back full staff and full steam with his full roster of guys. Just real quick before we get out of here, man, you're over there at Carver College, your junior year at the school. A lot of challenges, and things. Talk about real quick before we get out of here. Talk about this upcoming season. What your expectations are, the goals we have. We got 12 D1 games that we're playing for a small school like us. That's a major deal. So just kind of talk about your experience at Carver and kind of what you see for this year and the upcoming future.
First, I want to start by saying I'm grateful. You gave me the opportunity to be here. It wasn't too many places like they had a coach that really cares. And I believe like you really care. More so, even off the court, I feel like I'm growing as a person. On the court as well, but I feel like off the court, I've really grown as a person, a leader. I'll try to step up into the leadership role this year. I know you've been trying to push that on me for a couple of years now, but yeah, I'm trying to step up into it. This season, I'm just ready. I know we have a young team, but I believe that young team can be turned into a major positive. They're willing to listen, willing to play hard, willing to just do anything that they're asked to do. And so I'm excited to lead them. I'm excited to have you lead me, you, Coach Kemp, Coach Daniels. I'm excited to get these games in, these 12 D1 games. That's a big deal. I don't know anybody personally outside of D1 playing 12 D1 games. So I believe we have a major opportunity to do something major, not just in our community, but in the world. We can impact the world through how we play, like how we play hard, and we can use our vision to be able to, impact others and hopefully, shine a light on HBCU basketball, NCCA basketball, and just hopefully inspire the youth. That's really what I want to do this year.
Well, listen, man, you've been doing a good job, man. I've been trying to get you to talk now for 2 years, and you finally, you're stepping into that role. We got a young group of guys, man, and you're doing a good job of leading them. They respect you. They look up to you, and you're doing a very good job, man. And I think we're going to have a successful season. I think you're the right guy to lead this group of young guys. You got a high basketball IQ. I think our audience saw that today. That's one reason why I wanted to bring you on, man, because I know you're going to represent yourself well, man. So I appreciate you coming on, man, and taking the time, and just share this video with your peer group and your friends, and have them check us out, man. We're out here every Monday night. So
yes, sir.
Appreciate you coming on, Glenn, man. I really do, man. I love you, man. And
yes, sir.
Appreciate you coming on, man.
Yes,
so
sir.
This is 100 Yards of Football Sports Talk Radio. This is your basketball segment. Once again, I'm your host, Bryan Spencer. I've been joined by my point guard, Glenn Sims, a junior on the court, junior in the classroom. Major strides as a person on the court and as a person off the court. Very proud of him and the job that he's doing with Carver. We play our first game this Wednesday night at Life University. So I'm excited to see how this thing pans out. And so until we come back next week, I'm your host, Bryan Spencer, head men's coach, Carver College. Remember this: a life is not important except in the impact it has on other people's lives. So go out and impact somebody's life in a positive way. Until next week.